Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Cram here. Today we're going to be taking a look at my main account. This is the one you see on screen here, my Darth Cram account. And kind of how the account stands today will be the main thing, and then what I have planned for 2024, how I want to approach this year, things I want to work on, areas I think I can improve, and how I plan to do that. So let's jump into it here and kind of give you just a quick overview of what the account looks like today. So this account is about a year and a half old. I created it on June 1st, 2022. I'm not completely free to play. I do consider myself a pretty light spender though. I'm somewhere 140-ish dollars spent on the game, and that was mostly on Lightspeed bundles. So depending on your degree of spending, you consider that what you want to, whether that's a dolphin, a minnow, a whale, near free to play. You call it what you want. I've certainly had bar tabs much higher than that, so I consider that a pretty light spender as far as this game goes. Currently, I'm sitting in Chromium 1 for GAC, which I'm sitting at 5.7 mil GP. I consistently face people who are well above that, which to me that's a sign that I'm doing pretty well in GAC. Um, I do feel a lot of my GP currently is bloat from the Lightspeed bundles as well, but I'm still able to hold my own pretty well. Fleets, sitting usually in the top 20 is where I finish. I can squeak into the top 10 at times. I do have a 5-star executor. It's doing pretty well for me right now. My shard is starting to fill up with executors, and I am starting to see some profundities as well. So that might be something that we look at investing a little bit more in 2024. Conquest. This is the first one I've really pushed super hard for. I am in hard mode, and I'm gonna get the 365 crate in this conquest, which I'm a big Darth Bane fan, so that's great. I should be able to get him unlocked in about 5 months. I'm spending my conquest currency in the store to pick him up as well, and I will purchase the $10 conquest pass. Currently in the raid, I'm doing a little less than 4 mil damage on there, so that's going to be an area of focus for me as well. But I feel pretty good about where I'm at right now for what I have in my roster. Mods, definitely something that I take pretty seriously. So if you guys haven't used the mod score tool yet, I highly recommend you do that. It's a good way to keep track of how you're doing. My mod score is actually a little bit higher pre Lightspeed bundles. When you bloat your GP, if you're not increasing your pool of good mods, those scores typically come down as well. For me, the one that I look at the most is the Omega Top 110 because that's really the characters you're using. And what the Mega Score does that the others don't is it looks at not just mods over 15 speed, but it looks at mods over 20 and 25 and those breakpoints and kind of weights those a little bit higher. So if you were ever wondering what these mod scores mean, that's kind of what they are. As you can see here, I got 63 Zetas in the account, 10 Omicron, 7 of them for GAC. Omicron's definitely a pretty scarce resource. I've got some plans for some for 2024, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Talk a little bit about my guild here. Shout out to Xylox crew. You guys are primarily the ones that I'm doing this for. I'll be posting this link in the guild chat, so hopefully you'll take a second and watch the video. We're doing really good. We're sitting at almost 240 mil GP, so set to bump up to the next tier in Territory Wars, which will be great. A little bit more rewards for us there. I think that we're punching above our weight as far as GP goes in most game modes. We pulled 14 stars on our last route, which was amazing. We're hitting the 108 mil crate in the raid, which really close to hitting the 125. I think that's going to be our next target, so hopefully we'll get there really soon. 31 watt shards. We are going to be switching over to rote full time though. Coming up, probably February will likely be our last Dark Side Geo, and then we'll swap over to rote in March. Currently, we got 44 GLs, 20 executors, and we're winning about 70% of our territory wars. So doing really well for the size of our guild. We're punching up consistently. Very proud of the growth that we've seen in 2023, and I know 2024 is likely to bring even more of that. I'm an officer in the guild. I primarily do a lot of our recruiting, and my big philosophy in recruiting, I don't just like to look at GP when I look at who I want to bring into the guild. It's more about you want to bring the right person in, and I think we've done a great job of getting those right people into the guild. So very happy with the progress that we've made this year. Talk a little bit about my big goals for the account. So 2024, I'd love to get to a Rhodium, which I'm right on the verge of getting there now, and not get bumped back down. I'd like to stay there. And that's something that I think if I work on some of the other things that I have planned for the account that will help me stay in a Rhodium. You know, I need to go a little bit higher with my roster. I've gone pretty wide early on, which has helped me, do well in most game modes. But I really need to pump up some of those top end teams to have some holding power in Erodium. As far as the raid goes, my big goal there is to get to that 4.8 million mark. That gets me the 100 extra Mark III raid currency, which will be nice, and I think that puts me in a good place to start leveling off on those farms. I do want to add some more pop and territory wars. I'd like to add um, a couple more teams there at the top end, whether it's a defensive team or an offensive team. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then the Jedi Kale special mission in Rote. I have only attempted it once. I made the mistake. I went in modded for offense, and to do well in that mission, I think the strategy is going to be to mod him a little bit more survivable. I am looking at possibly adding an Omicron to Jedi Kale as well, and I would do the the first special that he has, the one that adds a little bit more survivability. It gives them protection up and health recovery. So that's my plan for that. Hopefully, I can get to above a 90% success rate on that Jedi Chaos special mission. And it'll be a nice little bump for the whole guild. We'll get a little bit of extra Get 3 currency, which you can never get enough of. So, next route, we'll try it out, see how it does. Currently, I'm farming Jedi Master Luke. Expecting to finish this up in late February. I'm about one gear piece away from getting Jedi Knight Luke done. And then after that, it's just a matter of farming Mon Mothma and getting her and 3PO up to relics. The relics have been coming pretty quick for me. I can take one character from G12 to relics in about a week, so I don't think that would take too long. Between that and farming tickets, I would say late February, early March at the absolute latest, I should have JML unlocked. And JML is going to do a lot of things for me. He's going to obviously help with conquest feats. He's the master of getting kills with X character, so that will help a lot. Help me get to that next crate in Conquest. Plan to use him offensively in Territory Wars and GAC. I have Jedi Knight Kale to pair with him, which will make a nice counter for a lot of those tougher to beat teams. He can beat JMK, Jabba in some cases, and even Leia Organa with when paired with Jedi Knight Cal, so that'll be a nice addition to the roster as well. Plus, he'll get me up to Challenge Tier 3 in the Jedi Assault Battle, which will be nice to add some passive income to the account. As far as increasing my scores in Raid, here's what I plan to do to up that score and try to get to that 4.8 mil mark. And these are kind of in order of how I plan to approach them. So obviously Jedi Knight Luke is going to be a requirement for Jedi Master Luke. So he'll be the first one I do. That'll add an extra R7 character to the raid for me, which should help add a little bit of a score here. Captain Rex, he'll be finishing out my Phoenix Squad. So I have the whole Phoenix Squad at R3 from the Lightspeed bundle that was released recently. Getting him up to R3, being able to run that team with a Datacron, that will be nice, plus an extra character in the raid. Colonel Stark, I needed to add another trooper to my lineup to do the evade basic mechanic, so I'll run him with two, probably Hera and Rex and Stark at R3, and run that team. That should give me a nice little score bump as well to have the extra trooper in there. And lastly, and this one is probably optional for me right now. I don't know that I will do this immediately, but taking Han from R7 to R8 will get me about an extra 700k in the raid, paired with Piet, running him at the top tier. He's also an R8 requirement for Jabba. So depending on which way I plan to go with the account when I get to my pivot point, Jabba is a consideration. So having that R8 done would make that decision a little bit easier. My plan is to look and see how the first three changes go to changes affect my score. Sorry. And then if I need to bump Han up to R8, I'll do that as well. Next, I'm going to do Kelleran Beck as a big focus for me. I mentioned I wanted to add some pop and territory war. If any of you guys haven't seen the videos out, Arnold released one recently. This Kelleran Beck team, beating everything outside of GLs and some GLs. I'm expecting 2024 to have a big focus on Galactic Republic, as everybody's been talking about. 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, so we're likely to get some Galactic Republic Separatist focus. I'm hoping that this will be for the new raid as well. They're one of the biggest factions in the game that hasn't been used in a raid yet, so that would be nice. And it's also a pretty low investment as far as Kairos, Zetas, Omicrons go. I have a lot of these characters up already, being Galactic Republic, Jedi, the most important one being Jedi Knight Anakin with this team. So just to do Keller and Beck, it's going to be a total of 400 Kairos to get him to Relics, along with 2 Zetas and 1 Omicron to have an absolute powerhouse in Territory War. That to me is just super high return for such low investment. He will be unaccelerated. He hasn't hit a node yet. If he goes to Cantina, it's a pretty quick farm, but if he does end up on a hard node, I'll probably do 1 refresh a day on him to try to get that done. And this should take me about 3 months to farm Keller and Beck. So that'll put us likely around sometime April, May, and that's going to be a good time for me to kind of reassess what I want to do as far as my next steps go. Um, Hopefully by then we'll have the new raid announced, which that will be my top priority is making sure that I have enough characters built up to get a good score in there. Raid is really that's your biggest income driver. So if you want to do well in raid, you want your guild to do well in raid, so that you can get those Mark 1, 2, and 3 raid currencies to build up your teams. It's just you're missing out on a ton of rewards if you're not trying to maximize your personal score. And then as far as planning for my next big farm, there's really got 4 options that I'm considering here. The 2 that are in game already would be Jabba or Inquisitors. Jabba, if I do the R8 on Han, I will likely go towards Jabba, just because he's such a good defensive GL, and personally I value defensive GLs a lot higher than I value offensive GLs in this game. Um, just because people have a tough time figuring out counters, and if you have a good one on your roster, it just makes their life so much harder. You also get the mod event with Jabba, which would be really nice. As I mentioned earlier, I am pretty focused on mods, want to get those scores back up. Inquisitors, I am doing Inquisitors right now on my alt for the guild. If I see a big push, if a lot of people are doing Inquisitors, I could jump on that train as well and try to help out, get us some Reva shards. But I kind of want to see it get some traction before I make that investment on my main account. And then obviously we don't know what we don't know as far as what's coming to the game, but they've been on a pretty good pace as far as adding 1 new ship and 1 new GL every year. So depending on who those are, that could be one of the routes I go as well. Getting a new GL is always so beneficial. If you look at what Leia did for someone coming into this raid, it's just night and day the difference you see. Another consideration would just be bulking up some of my existing teams. These would be things like Night Sisters, other kind of auxiliary teams that maybe you get a territory um, war Omicron or something on, or an assault battle, something to add some extra width to the roster and kind of some utility. So that could be something I would do as well. If we're still waiting for an announcement, I'll probably use that time to do those type of things. So the key takeaways from my plans here, and maybe something you can apply to your plans for 2024 as well. We know that there will be more Lightspeed bundles. Um, it's always been the best strategy to kind of not chase the new shiny thing in this game. I would say that that's changed with the Lightspeed bundles. If you're a spender, if you're playing free to play, that's different. But if you're a spender, you have to kind of plan for the Lightspeed bundles at this point. Um, if you're willing to spend the money, they can just really accelerate your account forward, and you are least likely to see Lightspeed bundles for newer characters and teams. So focusing on things like a Keller and Beck, or a new GL like a Leia or a Jabba or whatever comes out next year, you're likely to not get bit by the Lightspeed bundle bug and regret investing all those resources into them. We also know that game modes are going to be added and tweaked, and I think there's a couple of them that are kind of due. I think Territory War is due for a little bit of a tweak, so we could see some changes there. Rote is always changing. We know that they're going to add new special missions as new characters are released, new planets, things to work on there, so that can be something to consider. And then we also have resources to manage. So, the big three for me is Kairos, Omicrons, and Zetas. And what I mean with this point here is when you want to manage these is if I'm planning out my farms and I want to do something like a Jedi Knight Cal and an Inquisitors, I wouldn't want to do those farms back to back because I know I'm going to be super Cairo strapped from doing them. So you kind of want to space those farms out a little bit. If I'm doing a high Cairo farm, I might want to. My next one maybe is something a little bit less Cairo intensive, or same thing with Omicrons. If I know I'm going to be unlocking a Star Killer coming up and he needs a bunch of Omicrons, I'm not going to go blow Omicrons on other characters prior to unlocking him. So, plan your farms and then think about those resources as you plan them. Um, it's all about planning in this game. Things take a long time, and it's real easy to throw resources at something for a short-term gain. But if you plan for the long term, I think you'll be better off overall. The only constant is change. I'm pretty sure Yoda said that at one point, so I'm going to credit him for that one. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, and hope you'll apply some of these. And if you liked it, you can always subscribe. I'm not planning to crank out a ton of content on this channel, but I will probably do updates like this once in a while, just kind of let you guys see how the account's going, what my plans are, maybe a mid-year update as well. So shout out to Zylox crew if you guys are watching. We appreciate you. You guys are crushing it. Let's keep going. 2024 is going to be a big year. Take care, everyone.